Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 700 Club. It looks like this incredible drama we've been witnessing is about to end. Mitch McConnell says he's going to have a vote this week. They've got something about cloture. They've got to have a motion on cloture a day or so before the vote. But nevertheless, certainly by Friday, he should have this thing done. The FBI has been doing some investigating. This is like the 7th time that they've worked on Brett Kavanaugh, and it looks like they will draw it to a conclusion probably today. So the senators will have something, and they're doing everything they can on the Democratic Party to move the goalposts. You know, they sat on this allegation for months. They had it. They had a letter. Senator Feinstein had a letter. She sat on the letter and the so-called smoking gun of the revelation for months. And then suddenly they're screaming, you've got to hurry. You're not giving us enough time to do an FBI check. Well, if you'd given us this thing sooner, there would have been plenty of time for a more extensive FBI. But the FBI is not going to reveal anything. I think what they need to do, frankly, is to go after the accuser and point out the inconsistencies to her testimony. And has she, in fact, been lying? I think, excuse me, this is a very, very serious thing. Wendy?
Yeah, the Republican responses come as the FBI is wrapping up its investigation into allegations against Kavanaugh, and President Trump is defending him as well. Dale Hurd has the story.
As still uncorroborated allegations of misconduct continue to swirl around his Supreme Court nominee, President Trump defended Brett Kavanaugh by going on the offensive against his accuser. At a rally in Mississippi last night, the president attacked the credibility of Christine Blasey Ford's claims that she was sexually assaulted by Kavanaugh when they were teenagers.
How'd you get there? I don't remember. Where is the place? I don't remember. How many years ago was it? I don't know.
Blasey Ford's attorney replied with this tweet calling President Trump's remarks a vicious, vile, and soulless attack. But an ex-boyfriend of Ford wrote a letter to Senate Judiciary Chair Charles Grassley saying he once saw Ford explain in detail how to prepare to take a polygraph. But Ford said in last Thursday's hearing she'd never talked about how to take a polygraph test with anyone other than her lawyers. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, responding to a question from CBN News' Abigail Robertson, said it was Kavanaugh's life that is being destroyed by Democrats.
This has been the most outrageous, as earlier colleagues put it, search and destroy mission to just literally take out a man's reputation, to ruin his family situation, threats. The whole effort is just despicable by any objective standard.
The FBI has not interviewed Kavanaugh or Ford. Her lawyers want her to do an interview, but the FBI reportedly believes it can rely on her lengthy testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee last Thursday. And in the Wall Street Journal, Senate Judiciary Committee member Orrin Hatch pointed out that the attacks on Kavanaugh have changed. He wrote, "A notable shift has occurred in the left's anti-Kavanaugh campaign over the weekend. Attention is turned away from Christine Blasey Ford's allegations of sexual assault. Over and over, we hear him described as angry, belligerent, or partisan, followed by the claim that his conduct at the hearing shows that he lacks a judicial temperament. You've got to be kidding me. Do the people making this argument really expect a man who until 5 seconds ago had an unblemished reputation to sit passively while his reputation is viciously and permanently destroyed? Or to put it another way, some have noted that the allegations against Kavanaugh have gone from gang rape initially to a New York Times story about how he threw ice during a dispute at a bar in college in 1985. McConnell mocked that story, saying, "What a bombshell." Republicans pointed out that one of the authors of that Times report had already attacked Kavanaugh on Twitter earlier this year. Conservatives have been critical of both the media's coverage of the Kavanaugh case and the Democrats' handling of it. While Democrats say they just want the truth about Kavanaugh's background, one thing both sides will get, a vote on Kavanaugh's confirmation by this weekend. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
It's amazing. They're playing to about 3 people. Lisa Murkowski, who looks like she's going to vote for him. Susan Collins, who looks like she's going to vote for him. And Senator Flake from Arizona, who has said he's going to support him after this FBI thing. But this has been the most shocking example. You see, folks, you've got to understand the game. The game is real simple. The Supreme Court has been the focus of the left's attempt to destroy the moral fabric of this nation, to take away certain of the liberties provided by the Constitution, to make the Supreme Court a sounding board for the sociological trends in our country, and to no longer have the anchor of the Constitution to rely on. So what we're looking at now is getting a conservative majority who think that the text of the Constitution and the surrounding debates concerning it are probative in terms of case decisions. That's what Scalia said, and he was such a terrific guy. Now, that's what they're fighting about. Do we have a malleable court where the Constitution is whatever the judges say it is whatever they say it is, depending on the sociological trends of the time? Or are we going to go to the history of the Constitution, the exact text, and use that as the standard? Well, that's what we want, and that's what at least the majority of the people would like to see, and that's what Brett Kavanaugh means. That means a rock-solid majority for constitutional interpretation according to the framers. That's what his vote means. And it means it's the control of the left of the Supreme Court will be taken away. That's why they're fighting so hard. It is the most vicious attack, but it's really not against him. And they were against him before one of these hearings took place. They were calling for him to withdraw, and then they began to call him evil. And then, you know, to use all kinds of slurs. They were trying to get this, he was a sex fiend, and then they didn't succeed in that. Now he's a sloppy drunk. And then next to that, he doesn't have the judicial temperament. You can go on and on and on. Well, the big deal is, if Mitch McConnell hangs tough, and he's going to, he's got to get this procedural thing out of the way having to do with cloture so that they don't have endless debates, and they can cut off debate, and that's about one day. So it looks like by Friday, no later than Saturday, they will have a vote. The FBI report will be in detail to them today, as far as I can tell. So this thing is a circus that's got to be over. But Brett Kavanaugh, I don't know if he can ever get back the joy he had as being one of the most distinguished jurists in the United States. They have smeared him, and that smear will probably last a lifetime. What a horrible thing to have to go through. Well, in other news, after that terrible tsunami and major earthquake last Friday, Indonesia has been hit with another natural disaster. John Jessup has that.
Well, Pat, as I was saying, a volcano erupted on that same island hit by the tsunami. The volcano shot ash nearly 20,000 feet into the air, which could affect air travel, and that could hinder relief teams getting into the devastated area, desperately in need of food, water, medicine, and other supplies. The death toll from the tsunami has now reached at least 1,400 people, and hundreds more were injured. President Trump has offered help with recovery and the rebuilding efforts. Indonesia has multiple volcanoes, and it's located in the Ring of Fire, an active area for earthquakes and volcanoes. And Pat, this is something that you've talked about at length for quite some time.
At length, and you know, see, they've got that Pacific plate, and it's running up against the North American plate and other plates, and the whole area, those tectonic shifts are going on all the time. Well, this is a serious, serious thing, and the thing that is worrisome to Americans is that there's a Cascadia Ridge off the coast of Oregon, which could very possibly bring not only an underground earthquake, but a tsunami into that region. So the Aleutians, the various parts of Alaska are in that ring of fire. So we're looking at California, we're looking at Oregon, we're looking, of course, Chile, and all down in South America. But that's just the world we live in. But it's almost like the earth is angry with the people who are on it. It's amazing. It's like the earth itself is coming against us. So it's time to pray. John.
Pat, the New York State Department says it is investigating claims by the New York Times that President Trump received at least $413 million from his father over the span of decades. Much of that, according to the paper, dubious tax dodges, including outright fraud. The Times reports Trump and his father, Fred, avoided gift and inheritance taxes by setting up a sham corporation and undervaluing assets. The Times says its report is based on more than 100,000 pages of financial documents. But a lawyer for the president says the allegations of fraud and tax evasion are 100% false. Well, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is set to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un Sunday in Pyongyang, where he's expected to lay the groundwork for a second summit between Kim and President Trump. The meeting comes as Kim Jong-un accuses the Trump administration of demanding too much while offering too few concessions in negotiations to eliminate nuclear weapons from the Korean Peninsula. CBN's national security correspondent Eric Rosales has the story.
North Korea continues to demand that the United States work with North and South Korea to put an end to the Korean War. But the U.S. insists before any concessions are made, the North must do more to keep its deal and work towards complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. On Tuesday, North Korea called such demands rubbish. Its state-run news agency reported the end-of-war declaration can, quote, never be a bargaining chip for getting the DPRK denuclearized. And speaking at the United Nations General Assembly last week, Kim's foreign minister said he's not seen any cooperation from the U.S.
The U.S. insists on the denuclearization first and increases the level of pressure by sanctions to achieve their purpose in a coercive manner, and even objecting the declaration of the end of war.
The things that we would hope to see and that we've been very clear about are a complete declaration of their program, what their capabilities are, locations of facilities.
Researcher Matthew Hall with the Foundation for Defense of Democracy says despite claims from Kim Jong-un that he's demolished his country's only known nuclear test site, he can't be trusted. South Korea's own intelligence shows North Korea has up to 60 nuclear bombs. Ha says the U.S. should also keep an eye on South Korea's President Moon, a progressive who wants inter-Korean reconciliation.
We just need to control the pacing of that to make sure that the U.S. and South Korea are in lockstep, because the alliance between Seoul and Washington, the 60-plus year alliance, has been the linchpin to the security of the Korean Peninsula.
Ha calls this a survival game, which means the U.S. must continue to keep economic sanctions on North Korea and drain its revenue. Eric Rosales, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, Eric. Pat, back to you.
Well, the president says he's got a love affair with the dictator of North Korea.
Because of the letters, the love letters.
The love letters back and forth. I don't know. I don't think I'd have a love affair with that guy, but what I think is the president's pretty cagey, but I hope he hasn't been seduced by them. They still have an incredible machine for suppressing opinion. The Christians are being persecuted all over North Korea. It is essentially one major gulag. They're underfed, undernourished, and they are terrified of a police state. It is one of the most vicious, if not the most vicious, in the entire world. And, you know, this love affair stuff, I mean, it just won't fly. You see, what they mean by denuclearization is they want all American forces withdrawn. They want all the ships and the planes and everything of the United States taken out of the whole area. They want to be completely free of any United States involvement at all, and anything that would threaten them, any nuclear bombs or any long-range bombs that we have available, or bombers and so forth, they want them all withdrawn. That's what they mean by denuclearization. What we mean is they'll stop getting those missiles that imperil the United States. But that's not what they mean. But they've made a few gestures, and hopefully there's some substance to it. But that country is so terribly weak. They have a gross domestic product that is less than Nevada. I mean, they have almost nothing. And, you know, the people are suffering. And if we maintain sanctions on them and don't give them concessions, then what will happen is sooner or later they'll have to accede to what the president wants, or else the economy is going to collapse. So, you know, we need to stay tough with them, but this love affair stuff, I'm not too keen about all that.
I think President Trump likes to be seen as the president that can tame or befriend these evil dictators, and somehow that elevates him. He likes to be liked. I think he just wants everybody to like him.
But he thinks that if he gets in a room with somebody, that he will persuade them because he's so powerful, and he's so. He thought he had a deal going with the head of China. Now it turned out that's not the case. I guess he hadn't been seduced much by Vladimir Putin, but nevertheless, this Kim thing, they shake hands, they laugh, they have a good time, and he thinks that's enough. Well, it's not. John?
Well, Pat, the FBI is investigating a suspicious envelope addressed to the president and intercepted by the Secret Service. A day later, on Tuesday, 2 letters arrived at the Pentagon containing the poison called ricin. According to the Secret Service, the letters sent to the Pentagon were addressed to Defense Secretary Jim Mattis and Chief of Naval Operations Admiral John Richardson, but they didn't say whether the letter intended for the White House contained ricin or if it was related to the letters sent to the Pentagon. Well, the Department of Energy is announcing awards of up to $28 million to fight cybersecurity attacks. The awards will go for research and development of new tools to strengthen the cybersecurity of America's energy infrastructure, including the electric grid and oil and natural gas. Energy Secretary Rick Perry says protecting U.S. energy systems from cyber threats is a top national priority. He also believes the new awards will help develop new tools needed to fight off cyber attacks while also keeping the lights on. Pat, I'm sure you think this is long overdue.
It's long overdue. I've been talking about our grid that is so vulnerable, and they still aren't spending the money that's needed to shore up that grid. Our power grid, an EMP blast would put us in the dark across the nation. And these cyber attacks are doing everything they can to frustrate. And if you don't have electric power, folks, it's Katie bar the door. We're talking about millions dying because of it. So it's very, very serious. I might add, Regent University Cybersecurity offers a one-day C-suite cyber management workshop, executive workshop designed for corporate, government, and military leadership. The naval security people are already coming back for another session. They love our cyber range. And if you're interested for your company, it's 866-910-7615. It's a one-day C-suite cyber management workshop to give you the working skills of how you can fight off cyber attacks on your corporation. Isn't that fun?
One day.
One day.
Wow. Okay, let's do it.